Haunted Motel Autopsies. For terrifying true stories revealed from sinister medical examiners. Leah felt the weight of the world on her shoulders as she trudged home from the diner, shadows of exhaustion creeping into her bones. The flickering neon sign of the Oakwood Motel caught her eye, the peeling letters promising peaceful nights. Just outside the town's edge, it loomed like a ghost of better days, every flicker drenched in desperation. She hesitated for a beat, imagining the relief of a cheap, quiet night. Emily, her sweet little girl, deserved a moment without stress. Wrapping her fingers around the key, Leah stepped into the motel's dim lobby. The receptionist stared at her through shadowed eyes, a forced smile masking something darker. The air felt cold, unnatural for a muggy summer night. Despite the whispers that haunted this place like a distant memory, stories of strange happenings and people who wandered in only to vanish, Leah brushed it off as paranoia, trying to convince herself she only needed to sleep. Once inside room 7, she noticed the flickering lights that seemed to pulse with an anxious rhythm. She shook her head, telling herself to focus on Emily, sleeping soundly despite the faint mumbling echoing from the other rooms. Yet as minutes passed, Leah's thoughts twisted dark, gnawing at her like hungry shadows. Midnight dragged in like a thief, and the whispers outside her door grew audible, a familiar sound that clawed at her consciousness. Leah. The name slid from the darkness, wrapping around her like a noose. Her pulse quickened. It felt wrong, so wrong. Curiosity gripped her, igniting suppressed fears. Taking a breath, she steeled herself, the door creaking softly as she stepped into the hallway. Moths swarmed around the harsh light overhead, fluttering like spirits trapped in a cycle. Leah's breath hitched when she glimpsed movement. Those shadows danced along the walls. The receptionist stood at the end of the corridor, her smile now twisted, lips thin and unforgiving. Leah's heart raced. She felt the weight of unseen eyes lurking in the dark doors, waiting, watching. The whispers escalated, pulling her toward an open doorway where light spilled out, a siren pulling her closer. Inside, strangers huddled around a table, the air thick with dread. Medical files lay scattered, their faint, yellowed pages telling stories of despair, of lives lived and lost. Leah's breath caught in her throat as chilling names floated around her, connecting to the very rooms occupied by those now missing. Before we continue, a voice echoed in her mind. I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. The room grew heavier with tension, suffocating in its grip. Leah staggered back, instincts screaming at her to flee. The receptionist's voice, now sharp and knowing, sliced through her panic, whispering through clenched teeth. You're not supposed to be here. Fear enveloped Leah, and as she turned, shadows twisted around her, lights flickering ominously. She was trapped in a web spun by the past. A presence loomed closer, breathing its darkness over her. What had she awakened? The air crackled with anticipation, and as dread sank deep into her bones, she felt the cold touch of the Oakwood's secrets threatening to consume her. The air felt thick, almost alive, as Leah wheeled around, adrenaline spiking her heartbeat. Shadows stretched and twisted with agonizing slowness, and for a moment, she was paralyzed. Fear cocooned her, yet a suffocating urge to escape clawed at her insides. She stumbled backward. The faces at the table turned, revealing hollow eyes that bore into her soul. They were not simply strangers. They were specters of those who had vanished behind the motel's rotting doors. Each was a fragment of a story leaching into her mind, overwhelming her with their muted screams. Leah, the voice again, but this time it was a chorus. Leah, join us. Their whispers melded into a sinister lullaby, luring her deeper into their spectral realm. No, no, Leah gasped, shaking her head violently as she tried to focus. Panic coursed through her arms, her legs trembling. She needed to run. She had to find Emily. With a burst of desperation, Leah broke through the thrumming shadows, her feet pounding against the worn carpet of the hallway. But the weight of the receptionist's twisted grin followed her, echoing in her ears. "You're not supposed to be here." She reached room 7 and fumbled with the key. The door felt like a barrier against the nightmares pressing close behind her. As the door swung shut, she leaned against it, gasping for breath. But the moment of safety was illusionary. A low, rhythmic tapping sounded from the window. She turned, dread pooling in her stomach. The view outside was nothing but creeping darkness. The motel loomed around her, silently waiting, its walls almost pulsating alive with the past it housed. The tapping grew louder. Leah's breath stalled. It was steady, almost rhythmic. She peeked cautiously through the curtain, her heart hammering in her chest. A figure stood beneath the flickering streetlight, but it was no stranger. It was Emily, her daughter. "Mommy," the little voice called, echoing with an eeriness that set Leah's heart racing. She could see Emily's face, pale and illuminated under the dim light, but her eyes looked vacant, distant. "Emily!" Leah shrieked, throwing open the door. As she hurried out into the night, fear gripped her. For a moment the world fell silent. Everything felt like a dreadful pause, a breath held. But just before her panic tipped into desperation, Leah caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of her eye. The shadows shifted, twisting towards her, almost stretching as if reaching. It was then she heard it, a disembodied whisper, chilling as ice. "We need her, bring her to us now." Leah screamed, racing forward toward her daughter. Emily stood motionless, staring into the deep shadows, her expression one of vacant bliss. Leah reached for her, but a force pulled her back, tugging between the realm of the living and something much darker. "Mommy!" Emily's voice wobbled, achingly sweet and drawn. A shiver ran down Leah's spine. The shadows swirled around her daughter, and in a moment of horror, Leah realized this was a trap. Desperation pulsed through Leah's veins as the shadows slammed against her, forcing her to her knees. She fought it, clawing at the ground, eyes locked onto Emily, who now appeared to be fading beneath the weight of darkness. "Leave her alone," Leah sobbed, her voice barely piercing the suffocating silence. But the shadows only thickened, swirling tighter, determined to swallow the truth. What was this malevolence intent on taking her away? As Leah struggled, an icy hand brushed her neck, paralyzing her with fear. She had to make a choice. Stay and fight or flee for the faint chance of saving Emily. Which one would cost her everything? At that moment, the bright neon sign of the Oakwood Motel flickered violently, as if warning her of the horror brewing within. The whispers grew louder, now both alluring and terrifying. What had she awakened? And could she escape its grasp before it was too late? Leah felt her breath hitch as the shadows pressed closer, their whispers clawing at her ears like fingernails scraping glass. "Bring her. Join us." The voices danced around her, taunting her with promises of peace, wrapped in infinite darkness. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, yet her body felt rooted, as if the very ground beneath her was pulling her into its depths. "Emily!" she cried again, fighting against the invisible grip that forced her to kneel. The darkness enveloping her daughter was thick and hungry, pulsing like a living entity drawing her in, blinding her with dread. But in that moment of despair, something flickered inside Leah. It wasn't just fear. It was motherly instinct, fierce and consuming. She ripped her gaze away from the icy abyss that threatened to swallow Emily. With renewed urgency, she focused on the here and now, on the bond they shared, a love that could cut through the madness surrounding them. "Emily, listen to me." She pounded her fists against the fibers of the damp carpet. "Fight it. It's not real. I'm right here." For a flickering heartbeat, Emily's expression faltered. The vacant look slipped, and Leah saw a glimmer of recognition, her daughter, fighting against an unseen force. "Mommy?" Emily whispered, her voice frail, yet pleading. The shadows twisted and writhed at the sound, fury igniting within their mass. Join us, they hissed, and the very air trembled under their weight. Leah felt an icy chill washing over her, as though the night itself was trying to steal her warmth, her resolve. "Emily, take my hand," Leah shouted, reaching out, straining against the darkness that pulled her back. She could feel the heat of her daughter's presence, the fragile warmth that reminded her this was not over. Emily hesitated, caught within the seductive arms of the shadows. "Mommy, I can't, they want me no. You're stronger than them. I believe in you." Leah fought through the mounting terror, desperation igniting her spirit. With an effort so fierce it felt like splitting her soul, Emily turned her head slightly, her expression clearing, as if a veil lifted. "Mommy," she cried, her small hand reaching toward Leah, trembling but focused. Just then, the shadows surged forward, enveloping Leah in cold silence. She gasped, feeling the sting of their anguish, raw and tortured. The ghostly figures around her twisted and howled, furious at this small act of defiance. "Leave us alone," Leah bellowed, summoning every ounce of her love and fear into the shout. With her heart leading the charge, she clawed toward Emily, their fingers reaching out until they nearly touched, and that final moment of eternal torment. Leah felt a spark, a thread of light connecting their souls. It pulsed with life, pushing back against the shadows that had ensnared them for too long. But just as their fingertips brushed, the darkness unleashed an agonizing screech. It was a cacophony of lament and rage, and in the chaos, Leah stumbled. A force lashed at her, ripping her from the tether she had desperately forged. "No!" she screamed, watching as the shadows grasped Emily, pulling her deeper into their heart. The motel moaned around her as the very walls seemed to close in, echoing the cries of the lost. The neon signs sputtered, casting uneven light that danced mockingly. Leah's breath came in ragged gasps, her heart coursing with despair and fear. Still, she couldn't yield. She wouldn't. With a surge of adrenaline, Leah pushed herself to her feet, staring the darkness down. "I'll find you, Emily. I will." The shadows flickered, hesitating for the briefest moment. Leah caught the feel of something slipping away. Before she could comprehend it, she felt a lurch in the ground beneath her, as if the motel itself had inhaled sharply, readying for the next horror manifesting within its heart. Leah turned to confront the darkness once more, but an unexpected sound crept through, a faint laughter echoing from the depths of the motel. It was high-pitched, tinkling, yet twisted. A child's laughter. "Come play with us, Mommy," the voice called, laced with a chill that froze her blood. Could it be? Other children lost to this nightmare? Who were they? As Leah's mind raced, the shadows surged again, and she stumbled, trapped between desire and a mounting dread. "Find her before it's too late," a whisper flitted past her ear, breathy and ominous. But how could she continue in the face of such overwhelming terror? The motel drew in a long breath as darkness wrapped around her, pulling Leah deeper into its clutches, its secrets swirling with despair. And as she vanished into the shadows, she realized there were far more horrors yet to uncover. What had truly taken residence within the Oakwood Motel? What else lay waiting, just a whisper away? The air grew thick and heavy as Leah stumbled forward, urging her feet to move against the pull of the darkness. It felt like running through molasses, each step dragging her deeper into a nightmare. The echoes of that haunting laughter reverberated around her, beckoning, teasing. "Emily!" she shouted, her voice raw, but she could feel it, a faint heartbeat of distance between her and her daughter, a cruel echo that seemed to mock her persistence. The shadows danced in the corners of her vision, shifting and swirling with strange intent. They were alive, pulsating with the menace of unquenchable hunger. "Who are you?" Leah croaked, her tone trembling. The laughter stopped, the silence swallowing the sound whole. She glanced around, the hairs on her neck prickling as shadows slithered closer. They conspired, whispering secrets that sent chills through her already ice-cold flesh. "What do you want?" A figure emerged from the gloom, an indistinct shape at first, but as it took form, fear clawed its way into Leah's heart. It was a girl, no older than Emily, faceless but bright-eyed, standing just at the edge of the light. "You have to play with us," she said, her voice sweet yet laced with something profoundly sinister. "No," Leah shouted, shaking her head fiercely. "I won't. I'm finding my daughter." But the girl only giggled again, a sound like glass breaking. "She can stay forever. It's so much fun. You can too." Around them, the shadows nodded in agreement, moving unsteadily, like a ripple in a dark sea, closing in around Leah until she could barely breathe. "Emily!" She staggered back, sweat dripping down her forehead as the shadows reached for her, their icy fingers grazing her skin, sending waves of dread crashing over her. "Get away from us." The girl smiled wider, impossibly wide, jagged teeth exposed like a predatory grin. "Join us. You'll never be alone again. We all play together." Reality bent, twisting as Leah fought against the vice-like grip of despair. The essence of Emily's laughter flickered in her mind, driving her forward, reminding her of game nights, bedtime stories, everything that had made their bond unbreakable. "No, I will not give up," Leah screamed, pushing past the rising tide of shadows. She felt something crack inside the darkened corners of her mind as an unfamiliar rage ignited a furnace of tremendous power fueled by her love, flaring against the void. The shadows shrieked in fury, the cacophony deafening. Leah recalled the unmistakable warmth of her daughter, the way her smile lit up the dimmest corners of her day. "Emily!" she called again, the cadence growing louder, more insistent, a mantra against the darkness. With a forceful thrust, she charged toward the child shade, eyes locked, heart hammering. "You have no power here." The girl recoiled, her laughter turning to a hiss as the shadows recoiled momentarily. Leah saw her chance. Strength rippled through her, and with desperation pouring from her heart, she lunged into the darkness, reaching toward what felt like an emptiness, but was it? Through the chaos, images blurred. Flickers of familiar places, her daughter's room, the park they used to visit, all vibrant against the looming darkness. "I won't let you take her." Another surge forward, and the shadows screamed, a cacophony so piercing that Leah dropped to her knees, her vision spinning. "Come play with us." The phantoms whispered again, their voices weaving graciously through the air as Leah fought to wipe them from her mind. They were everywhere now, swirling like a heavy fog, and somewhere in the distance, she caught a glimpse of a small, bright figure striding through it, all a hint of red amidst the gray. "Emily?" she whispered, a fragile hope blooming within the depths of despair. The shadows froze, and with their pause came clarity, as if the world held its breath for just one fleeting moment. But as Leah reached for the figure, darkness erupted once more, the shadows lunging with renewed fervor. The girl's laughter mixed with Emily's voice, a haunting duet that rang in Leah's ears, drowning out her thoughts. Her heart raced, each beat resonating with dread. Could she reach that spark before it vanished into the depths? And then, in the midst of it all, the world shifted once more. The floor beneath her rattled violently, and Leah's heart dropped. Everything, including the shadows, seemed to warp and distort as the walls closed in yet again. She felt the pull of something tearing her apart, the sensation of being both nowhere and everywhere all at once. That critical instant, the laughter stopped and dread settled over her like a funeral shroud. Too late, a smooth, silky voice echoed from the depths. Leah shivered, understanding chilling her bones. Had Emily already been lost to this darkness? Will she discover the terrible truths of what awaited her in this unfathomable maze of shadows? Will she find a path through the storm to rescue her daughter? Before Leah could answer, she was swallowed by the suffocating void, left to grapple with her own waking nightmare, draped in uncertainty. But in the dark, one thought echoed through the chaos. The worst was yet to come. The world spun like a carousel of doomed dreams. Leah's heart pounded, pushing against her ribcage as panic seized her. She fought through the oppressive darkness, clawing at the air, desperate for any sign of Emily. The room heaved and twisted, like a living thing, swallowing her whole with its ceaseless ache. "Emily?" Her voice broke under the strain, but hope flickered in her chest, fragile but alive. She squeezed her eyes shut, letting the sharpness of pain and dread wash over her. Maybe it would distract her from the impending threat. Let go, just let go, came the whispered voices again, slithering through her thoughts like serpents. You don't need to fight. Shaking her head, Leah pressed forward, step by agonizing step. The ground felt uneven, as if she were walking on a mass of bodies, writhing just beneath the surface. The girl in the shadows laughed, a chilling sound that echoed menacingly, making the hair on Leah's arms stand on end. You were invited to our game, Leah. The shadows shuddered delightfully, circling her like vultures. You can't leave without playing. I'm not playing. I'll never play. Leah screamed. The rawness of her voice ripped through the tension. A sharp breeze howled through the void, chilling her to the bone. And, for a fleeting moment, she thought she sensed something other than terror in the air, a tender wisp of familiar warmth. Emily. Mommy. The word was a choked gasp, lost in the cacophony. Leah's heart surged, fueled by the sweet echo of her daughter's voice. Where are you? She cried out, a torrent of emotion flooding her, fear mixing with deep-seated love. Emily. The shadows buzzed, shifting closer, pressing tighter. Leah felt the cold pinpricks against her skin, their icy touch sparking anger. Fractured images filled her mind. Emily twirling in a yellow sundress, laughter breaking like sunlight against the dreary backdrop of her own prison. Leah's breath quickened as adrenaline surged. She swung her fist out toward the shadowy girl, fueled by an instinctive rage. Get away. You don't own her. She belongs with me. The girl recoiled, her body twisting like smoke, face contorting, mocking Leah's fervor. You think you can defy us? The longer you resist, the more darkness devours your soul. Leah staggered back, fear puncturing through the fog of determination. She could feel the shadows closing in, a tightening vice squeezing the air from her lungs. They tugged at her sanity, resonating with agony. Yet within that despair, a fierce resolve burned brighter. No, I will not let you take her. Leah shouted again. Each word steadied her resolve like a shield. Then, suddenly, clarity emerged amidst the chaos. As the darkness shimmered, a path seemed to form through the gloom. Leah was not just fighting the shadows, she was fighting for her daughter. With fierce determination, she pressed forward, taking tentative steps down the new path. It was a strange sensation, almost like walking through a fog, with light just beyond sight. With every stride she took, a glimmer of warmth extended from her heart, pushing back shadows inching ever closer. Emily? A desperate howl echoed through the darkness, filled with raw yearning. The shadows reacted violently, hissing with rage, their forms bubbling over like an angry sea. Stop! You cannot! Emily! Where are you? Her voice broke free, piercing through the tumult. And then, like lightning splitting the sky, a vision flashed before her. Emily, standing in a swirl of light, her eyes wide with fear but full of hope. Leah almost fell forward, eager to reach out. Mommy! The sound was a siren-esque call, resonating through the void. Leah launched herself towards the vision, the tension building, every heartbeat pounding against the walls of darkness. But as she surged ahead, she felt the shadows clawing at her, dragging her back. Too late, they mocked, weaving a web of despair and pulling at her very essence. She would not succumb. With a surge of defiance, Leah clawed forward, determined to break through the grip of darkness. But just as she grasped for that impending light, the world around her twisted and screamed, all sound drowned out by a wretched cacophony. The sudden eruption of shadows thrown into chaos rocked her back. Join us! The phantoms screamed, their voices a thunderous roar mingled with Emily's call. And then, with dizzying speed, the ground evaporated beneath her, and Leah found herself plummeting into a chasm of darkness. The air rushed, threatening to swallow her whole. Would she break free and reach her daughter? Or would she become yet another ghost within this malevolent game, lost forever in the shadows? As the darkness closed in, Leah's final thought pierced through the chaos. Would she wield the strength to shine against the encroaching void? Leah fell and fell, the darkness swirling around her like a ravenous storm, its cold fingers gripping at her throat, squeezing the screams from her lungs. The air became thicker, stinging her nostrils, a blend of metallic dread and despair that tasted foul against her tongue. Time felt lost in that abyss, and yet, a sound pulled her back, a soft, familiar whisper. Mommy, it floated to her from somewhere deep within the void, a beacon amidst chaos. Emily! Leah cried out, battling the crushing sensation as she fought against the tide of shadows. She stretched her arms, desperate to grasp something, anything, that tethered her to her daughter. Every ounce of her being joined the effort, muscles straining, heart racing, and then, suddenly, she landed not on solid ground, but on a surface that rippled and bucked like water. Leah gasped, shock coursing through her. She looked down, and there it was, a vast pool of black liquid, reflecting nothing, as if the very essence of nightmares had come alive. Flashes of faces began to emerge in the murky depths, faces twisted in agony, mouths opening in silent screams. Leah stumbled back, the horror engulfing her as she recognized them. Each face was marked by betrayal, loss, a life cut too short. These were lost souls, trapped in a cycle of despair. The laughter of shadows echoed once more, a chorus of mockery that chilled her flesh. They can't help you, Leah. Join them, no, she snarled, shaking her head furiously, heart pounding louder than ever. But the shadows pressed in from all sides, the weight of their presence suffocating. They circled her, their shapes darting in and out of vision, flickering like the dimmest candle flickers. And then she remembered the glimmering warmth from earlier, the flicker of hope she had felt when she envisioned Emily. Gathering that warmth like a shield, she pushed back against the encroaching darkness. You are not my end, Leah shouted, determination crystallizing her voice. With every word, more light pulsed from her heart, illuminating the surrounding shadows, forcing them to recoil. Leah could feel their icy fingers retreat, howling in anger. This was her strength, her love for Emily, a force strong enough to resist despair. Emily, she shouted again, almost desperately, the name carrying through the echoes like a prayer. And then, as if answering her, the swirling mist began to part. Ahead, a faint glow pulsed rhythmically, Emily's light, pulsing with life. Leah took a trembling step forward, drawn by the soft, ethereal glow that was getting brighter. But the shadows surged again, angrier now, turning frantic, their voices a whirlwind of threats and deceit. You could have been one of us. Embrace the darkness. Leah pressed onward, fighting against the panic threatening to undo her. Never, she yelled, focused solely on the light ahead. And then she felt it, a sharp pain in her side, cold as death, as one of the shadows lunged forward, slicing through her defenses like a blade. Leah's proud shout faltered into a wheeze. Everything seemed to shift, the world blurred. As the pain sunk deeper, darkness threatened to swarm around her again, grasping at her soul, her strength wavering. Was this how it ended? Would she lose to the very despair she fought against? But then came another sound, Emily's laughter. Pure, innocent, weaving through the heavy shadows, pulling Leah back. Mommy, don't let go. In that moment, Leah felt a surge of warmth swell within her, burning away the chill of uncertainty. The pain was still there, but it paled in comparison to the love that connected her to her daughter. With renewed strength, Leah surged forward, forcing herself toward the light. But the shadows shrieked, clawing at her. You cannot escape. Just as she reached for the brightness, it exploded into a blinding radiance. The shadows faltered, momentarily disoriented. Leah stepped through, her heart racing, and then she felt Emily's small hand grasp hers, pulling tight. But what awaited them on the other side? A calm reunion? Or another nightmare lurking? The light enveloped them, a soft cocoon against the shift of shadows, but Leah's heart raced. Had she finally escaped? Or was something far worse waiting for them both just beyond the light? The light faded slowly, revealing a chilling scene. Leah blinked against the brightness, and her breath caught in her throat. They stood in an empty room, walls stained with something that looked like old blood, shadows clinging to the corners like unwanted memories. Leah turned, her heart pounding. Emily? She whispered, terrified of what she might find. The little girl was beside her still, but her eyes were wide and darting, searching the space around them. "Mommy, I can feel them," Emily murmured, clenching Leah's hand tighter. "They're so close." Leah's stomach twisted. "Who?" she managed to ask, fear creeping up her spine. "Evil people. They hurt me, they hurt you." The girl's voice trembled, and Leah's heart sank like a stone. The darkness hadn't just been a nightmare. It felt real, alive, and waiting nigh. In the center of the room lay a rusted metal table, slick with some dark substance. Leah's mind darted back to the faces she had seen trapped in the pool. Those tormented souls. Were they here too? "No," she whispered, backing away. "No, Mommy." Emily's voice pierced through Leah's panic, grounding her. "We have to stay together. I feel like we're not alone." The shadows flickered and pulsed, drawing closer. Leah forced herself to breathe, focusing on Emily's frantic grip. "Stay close to me," she breathed, fighting the urge to run, to escape. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the room. An old wooden door flew open, creaking on rusty hinges, and Leah's heart leaped into her throat. An apparition emerged, a figure with hollow eyes and skin like burnt parchment. It hovered just beyond the threshold, waiting, as if savoring her fear. Leah's insides roiled. "Join us," it hissed, the sound echoing with a hunger for souls. "You cannot resist the call. You belong with us now." "No," Leah shouted, pulling Emily behind her. "We will not join you." But the figure was joined by others, each with gaunt expressions and whispers of despair hanging heavy in the air. "Feel their anguish, dear Leah. They lost everything. You will too," they chanted, a chorus of lost spirits drawing closer in a suffocating mass. Emily squeezed Leah's hand tighter, her small voice trembling. "Mommy, I'm scared." Leah felt her resolve shaking as the shadows advanced, swirling like a storm. "We have to leave," she shouted, searching for another exit. But the room felt like it was closing in on her. And then, through the oppressive darkness, she saw it, a sliver of light, glowing faintly behind the figure. Her instincts kicked in. "We can't let them trap us." She took a shuddering step toward the light, gripping Emily's hand. The spirits reached out with fingers of shadow, trying to drag them back. Leah felt claws scrape against her skin, and she screamed, pulling harder. "Run!" she cried, racing toward the light, Emily in tow. But as they neared it, Leah froze. The light warped and twisted, flashing images of what lay ahead. A bridge crumbling in the distance, an unending tunnel of despair, and a door marked with the same rust and stains as the table. Fear lanced through her. It could be another trap. And yet, Leah felt Emily's warmth beside her, an anchor in that sea of darkness. "We have to trust it," her daughter's voice urged fiercely. With a sudden burst of courage, Leah surged forward, her heart pounding, bracing for whatever lay beyond the terrible door. Would they find safety, or something far worse? The shadows screamed in protest as they tore through the light, each second stretched into an eternity. Leah could feel the temperature drop, the walls seeming to pulse with anger. Just as they reached the threshold, everything went black again. What would they find in that darkness this time? Would it consume them, or offer a painful truth? The darkness enveloped them like a thick fog, dense and suffocating. Leah gasped, her lungs tightening against the cold. Emily's grip was unyielding, like a vice, and Leah could barely hear her own heart thudding in her ears above the rising cacophony of whispers that seemed to swirl around them. Where had the light gone? Panic clawed at her. "Emily," she cried, trying to keep her voice steady. "We need to find a way out." "I can't see. Mommy, I can't feel anything," Emily whimpered. Her small body trembled next to Leah, and fear slithered back into Leah's gut. They were lost before she could respond. A low rumble vibrated through the air, a sound like distant thunder, but with an ominous undertone, as if the very walls were alive with malice. Shadows flickered and danced, browning eddies of gloom that threatened to swallow them whole. "Follow the sound, Mommy," Emily urged, her voice somehow steadying Leah's shaky resolve. Leah stumbled forward, the unseen ground beneath her feet uneven, disorienting. They moved cautiously, each step an act of courage, the shadows seeming to stretch and shriek with each passing heartbeat. And then, out of the dark, she saw it, a faint glimmer, wriggling between the shadowed veil. It flickered like the last flame of a dying candle, both inviting and terrifying. "This way," she shouted, bounding toward it as they rushed closer. A bone-chilling laugh echoed through the darkness, cold and mocking. "You think a light can save you?" it rasped, the voice impossibly deep. "You are already ours," Leah faltered, dread washing over her. "Hold on tight, Emily," she yelled, snatching her daughter just as two icy, skeletal hands reached out from the shadows, clawing for them. She felt sharp nails graze her shoulder, sending a jolt of fear deep into her bones. With a final surge of combined determination, they pushed through the darkness and reached that glimmering light. As they broke free, they tumbled into a new space and reality crashed back like a tidal wave. They found themselves in a small, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with dusty old medical charts, and the faint smell of antiseptic hung heavy in the air. A single fluorescent bulb flickered ominously, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch like grasping fingers. "What is this place?" Leah whispered, scanning the room for an escape route, her pulse racing. "It feels wrong," Emily said, her wide eyes reflecting fear. "Like the bad men were here." Leah's heart sank as she moved toward the door, the only exit visible. It creaked as she turned the handle, a sound that resonated like a death knell in the stillness. Just when she thought they might be free, an unnatural chill erupted from behind her. Standing there, swaying in the doorway, was the apparition, a gaunt figure, its hollow eyes boring into Leah's soul. "You can't leave," it croaked, its voice filled with that same sinister hunger. "You belong to us, remember?" "No," Leah screamed, shoving Emily behind her. "We want to be yours." In an instant, the figure lunged forward, and Leah felt the cold weight of dread grip her heart. But just as the shadows reached for them again, Emily stepped into the light beside her, a spark of courage flaring in the child's tiny frame. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice echoing defiantly against the walls. For a moment, Leah hesitated. Could they beat back this evil? She held Emily's hand tightly, heart racing, ready to fight. But as if reading their thoughts, more shadows began to swirl, coiling and hissing in rage. The lights flickered, the room seemed to warp, and a dizzying feeling enveloped them. And that's when Leah caught a glimpse of something lurking in the shadows behind the figure, the outline of a doorway, glowing with a deeper light. Was it possible? Leah whispered, "Do you see that?" But before she could take a step toward hope, the shadows lunged, and the last thing she heard before everything went black again was her daughter's terrified scream. What was waiting for them in that other realm? Would they finally find the way out, or had they already fallen into a trap they could never escape? As the darkness closed in once more, Leah felt weightless, a strange, floating sensation overtaking her. But that light, it had pulled her in, held her captive. Desperation flooded her, and she expected a sudden impact, a splintering collision with reality. Instead, she found herself standing in a hallway where the fluorescent lights buzzed angrily overhead, filling her head with a metallic throbbing. "Mommy?" Emily's voice quivered, tinged with uncertainty, as she clutched Leah's hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're somewhere new," Leah replied, though doubt gnawed at her. The air chilled, more sepulchral than the last room. The walls pulsed with an eerie familiarity, each step echoing back at them. Ahead, a door stood ajar, flickering with an unsettling glow, the source of the strange luminescence that had momentarily caught Leah's eye. Emily started moving toward it instinctively, her tiny feet padding softly across the bare floor. Leah's instinct screamed for her to run back the way they'd come, but curiosity tugged at her too. "Wait," Leah whispered harshly, tugging Emily back. "We don't know if it's safe." A low moan resonated from beyond the door, vibrating through the building and into Leah's bones. It was a mournful sound, filled with anguish that seeped into her mind, painting gruesome pictures of all that could be lurking beyond. "We should go the other way," she urged. "No, we have to," Emily insisted, defiantly stepping forward. Emily! Before Leah could finish, her daughter elbowed the door wide open, and a blast of light poured out, bathing them in a harsh glow. Standing frozen in the threshold, Leah was struck by the sight before them. A stark white room, barren except for a metal table in the center, gleamed under glaring spotlights. Carefully pinned to the table, a thin sheet revealed a body pale, lifeless, and stitched grotesquely. Leah's stomach turned at the sight of the chilly, surgical tools dotted around. Their sharp glimmer seemed to mock her. Mommy Emily's voice trembled, her wide eyes glued to the figure upon the table. But it was not the body that seized Leah's attention. It was the reflection in the steel. For a fleeting moment, she saw shadows shift behind them in the hallway, dark shapes gliding closer, fueled by the same cold malice that had chased them from before. Panic surged in Leah, propelling her forward. No, we have to leave. As they turned, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, lanky man in a tattered lab coat, his face obscured by dark curls that fell over his eyes. You can't leave, he said, the words reverberating with a sinister glee. You've already been chosen. Leah's pulse hammered as she pulled Emily closer, moving backward. The man laughed, a sick sound that cut through the air. You'll never escape your fate. The others didn't, eyes wide with fear. Leah strained to find any possible route to safety. A single window glimmered at the far side of the room, but there was no time. The figure took a step forward, revealing a ghastly smile that didn't belong on human lips. Mommy! Emily screamed, the sound breaking through Leah's fear-laden haze. Leah felt the ground beneath her shift, a tremor running through the very bones of the structure. Their only chance was forward, toward the light of that cursed room. But she could feel the push of darkness closing in, trying to drag them back. Run! She yelled, and they darted past the figure just as he lunged for them. They burst through the open door, scrambling down the cold corridor, but the walls felt alive, pulsating as if the building itself wanted to keep them imprisoned. Leah's heart raced as she pulled Emily along, their breath mingling in terrified gasps. But something flickered in the distance, a flicker of doubt. Had they returned to the same spot they started from? The oppressive shadows loomed closer. The whispers grew louder, taunting, whispering secrets of what awaited them. Where are we? Leah panted, desperation crashing over her. I don't know, Mommy, but it looks like the hallway is getting longer, Emily whimpered. A flicker of realization pierced through Leah's fear, a dreadful understanding gnawing at her mind. The paradox struck with chilling clarity. The entity had shifted them, playing with the very fabric of reality itself. The hallway seemed endless. And then came the voice again, echoing through the darkness. Your fate is near. What had they stumbled into? Could they find their way out? Or were they doomed to tread this nightmarish corridor forever? Lost in a world where shadows thrived, they rushed forward into uncertainty. What awaited them at the end of this corridor? Was it freedom or a deeper darkness, preparing to swallow them whole? The corridor stretched endlessly, a serpent coiling around them, taunting with its grim familiarity. Leah's heart raced. She felt like a marionette caught in a twisted play, every thread pulling her deeper into despair. Emily's small hand trembled in hers, and Leah fought to keep her courage intact. Keep going, sweetheart. We can't stop now, Leah urged, pushing dread down like a bad memory. They sprinted, the shadows howling behind them, angry and relentless. As they ran, Leah's mind raced. How many times had they walked these halls? In that moment, the flickering lights above snapped off, plunging them into darkness. Leah stumbled, cursing the oppressive void. Felt like breathing in lead. Mommy! Emily's voice quaked, and Leah wrapped her arms around her daughter, shielding her against the dark. Let us stay together, she whispered tightly. Then, like an ugly omen, the lights buzzed back to life, revealing a slightly altered path ahead. Leah's gut twisted. What game are they playing? Suddenly, from the shadows, the tall man in the tattered lab coat emerged. A menacing smile etched across his face. Where are you going? The fun is just beginning. he cackled, his voice echoing like a death knell. Leah's heart sank. "We won to be part of your twisted show," she shouted, fury bubbling inside her. Emily trembled. As if conjured by fear itself, shadows began to twist violently around the man, swirling and enveloping him like mist. "You can't escape your fate," he screeched, before the shadows swallowed him, leaving not even a whisper. Filled with adrenaline and despair, Leah turned to see the path ahead. A door gleamed faintly at the end, pulsating like a heartbeat. "That's our way out." They dashed forward. Every inch felt like an uphill battle as the shadows clawed at their heels, a cacophony of whispers clawing at Leah's sanity. "You can't leave, you'll come back, join us." With each step, Leah felt the pressure mount, but she clutched Emily tighter, a warm lifeline anchoring her soul. They reached the doorway, and Leah yanked it open, stepping through an unrelenting brightness. And there it was, a room flooded with light, warm and inviting, filled with soft laughter. A stark contrast to the despair they had fled. Leah gasped, momentarily blinded, but the sweet sound of children's laughter tugged at her heart. "Mommy!" Emily cried, breaking free of Leah's grasp and running toward a swarm of children playing. They were bright and clean, happiness radiating from their faces. Leah felt a moment of hope swell within her, but dread snaked into her thoughts. "Emily, wait!" "No!" Leah called, lunging forward, but the air around her thickened, pushing her back. Shadows clawed at the edges of the light, writhed cruelly like trapped demons. "Join us, Mommy!" The whispers filled the air, a haunting prophecy. "Stay away from her!" Leah screamed, but her voice was swallowed, drowned in the malevolent chorus. The joyous laughter turned sinister, mocking her resolve. From the light, Emily turned. "Mommy, don't be scared. Come play." Her voice warped with an otherworldly echo that froze Leah's blood. Emily's expression shifted, becoming vacant just like those shadows had tried to make her. "No!" Leah cried, her heart shattering. "Fight it, Emily. You're stronger than this." A moment of clarity flickered in Emily's eyes, just a glimmer, before shadows coiled around her again. Leah rushed forward, feeling the heavy grip on her heart tighten. With every ounce of fury and love ignited inside her, she surged against the force trying to pull her daughter away. "Emily, listen to me. You're my light. You can't let them take you." Leah propelled herself into the fray, each step an act of sheer defiance. She could feel the darkness recoil as she pushed through, refusing to yield. Suddenly, their eyes met Emily's wide, pleading, fighting off the shadows wrapping around her like a dark cocoon. "Mommy!" Reaching for her, Leah felt a rush of warmth surge between them, pulling them closer. "I'm here. I'm right here." And just like that, as their fingers clasped, the bright laughter morphed into screams. The wall of darkness crumbled and shadows recoiled as if burned. Leah pulled harder, feeling Emily's warmth fighting against the cold grasping at her spirit. They surged through the doorway together, a blinding light igniting around them, exploding the darkness into beautiful shards of nothing. With one desperate leap, Leah felt the tide of shadows rip away, finally free from their malicious grasp. They landed on solid ground, the sun warm on their faces, the air clear free. Panting, Leah flung her arms around Emily. Tears streamed down her cheeks as reality settled in. They were alive. The Oakwood Motel loomed far behind them, its power crumbling like a fading dream. "Mommy, we did it!" Emily exclaimed, her voice sweet and innocent, the shadows now behind them, powerless. Leah nodded, breathlessly holding her girl. "You were so brave. I'll always be with you. No shadows can take that away." Together, hand in hand, they stepped away from the darkness, hearts entwined in a bond stronger than any fear. As they walked into the rising light, Leah knew one thing for sure. They had conquered the darkness, and there was nothing they couldn't face together. Now, if you don't want to miss more thrilling stories like this one, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button and feed the algorithm so more fans can hear this tale of triumph over fear. I want to hear your thoughts, theories, and reactions. So flood the comments section. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need a boost of courage. Let us build an army of light against the shadows.